and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. George Allen.
Thank you.
Please welcome Mr. Jim Webb.
That's a bottom line agreement that John Warner, Secretary Baker, and I have, is rather than retreating, we need to make sure that Iraq is not a safe haven for terrorist organizations.
Is exactly what I've been saying for the last 2 years. I've been saying for more than 2 years that we need to get an announcement from this government that we have no desire for long-term bases in Iraq and that we need to reach overtly for a diplomatic solution.
I made a mistake, careless words. I've apologized for it, and it's been discussed right much. And then you have these baseless allegations who do not depict who I am, how I was raised, or what I believe in.
Well, I think this issue has been discussed ad nauseum. The objections that I had to that one event were that I thought that Senator Allen was unnecessarily bullying someone on my staff.
These people who said that you used the N-word, albeit 30 years ago, are lying?
What I said is I don't recall using that word, but the stories were portraying it as if that word were part of my vocabulary, which it was not, and that was what's inaccurate. And then there's all sorts of absolutely ludicrous stories as well.
Senator Allen's campaign were the ones who did the commercials and you know, engendered a lot of this stuff. We got a lot of calls from women supporting us. I think people need to look at my record. When I was Secretary of the Navy, I opened up more operational billets to women than any Secretary of the Navy in history, and I did it on my own initiative.
And if you're going to make proposals, you ought to know how many Virginians are affected by the tax relief.
What do you think is the proposal that I made? It's not the one you put in your ad.
No,
I never said that I would agree with the tax increases that you've used in your ad.
Do you know how many people are benefiting from the tax cuts that you have criticized?
Did you know that you put 100,000 more people on the street? Did you know that?
I voted for tuition assistance for families. In fact, we voted
allowed
the
tuition tax credit to die last year.
Gentlemen, let's move on.
Candidates, the incumbent Republican Senator Rick Santorum and the Democratic challenger, the state treasurer, Bob Casey. Thank you both for being here. Time is up. You're making it.
Ken, this is a legitimate question. He's questioning my work ethic. I have a 98% voting record. 98%. I have a 95% voting record this year. I'm in the toughest Senate race in the country. And this gentleman doesn't show up for work. They chronicled last year. Last year, he only spent 50% of the time in at work. Now, I want you to look in the camera and tell people how many full days of work you spent at the treasurer's office last month.
Don't be a desperate campaigner.
Please look in the camera.
You're getting really desperate.
Why aren't you answering the question?
Senator, by the
you're a
rules,
negative campaigner. That's why.
Senator Santorum, by the rules that you have agreed to.
$135,000
and I get results that you don't get.
Please, 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 please. You're killing our timekeeper, and you're just trashing your own rules. Now let's move on. Does this campaign mean you're no longer interested in being governor?
No, I knew that when I decided to run for the U.S. Senate.
Maybe a yes or no. We're really short on time.
What it means, Ken, is that I'm running for the U.S. Senate, and by doing that, it probably foreclosed any chance that I would have for another higher office like governor. I understand that.
Time is up. Now it's time for the candidates to question each other, as if they haven't already.
Quit lying to the people, Bob. You're running for office all the time. You don't give answers to questions. You don't even campaign for this job. You spend 2 days a week running. I mean, I understand you have a great name of Bob Casey. The people of Pennsylvania want more than that. Be concerned about outsourcing.
Hold on.
You have an ad on television complaining that I'm outsourcing jobs, and you're investing taxpayer dollars in companies that outsource.
I got a point to make here.
Make it.
Stop talking.
I'd be the first one today.
I got a point to make. Here's the point. You are having trouble in this campaign living up to your record.
You can see, and you can see from this debate, I'm a passionate guy. I'm tough. I'm a fighter. But you know what? I mean, I'm an Italian kid from a steel town. What do you expect from me? I mean, I'm a guy who grew up having to scratch and claw. I wasn't born into a family that had a great name.
Senator Santorum wants to stay the course. He really thinks that the next 6 years should be more of the same. More of high health care costs. The cost of health care for families going up by over 70% since he is in the Senate leadership. Trade policies that have pushed our jobs overseas. We need change. We've got to move in a brand new direction. And the way we get there is by rolling up our sleeves in a bipartisan way to deliver on important promises.
And let's move on.
Candidates.
Today, Minnesota. Democrat Amy Klobuchar, Republican Mark Kennedy, welcome both. Knowing what you know today, would you still vote?
We acted, you know, you can't really play TiVo and rewind in the real world. But let me just say this. First of all, I stand by my vote.
How come he won't even admit that he was wrong about voting for this war? When we are in the situation we're in, when we've spent over $300 billion, when many members of his own party have admitted that this war was not the right direction, that in fact it has fomented terrorism.
Again, key differences in the war on terror. Ms. Klobuchar has come for weakening the Patriot Act that has allowed us to have 5 years without a terrorist attack on our country. She's come out against making sure that we were paying attention when Al-Qaeda was talking to somebody in America to make sure that we knew what plots they were planning.
I believe that we do need to start bringing our troops home. Clearly at this time, this late date in mid-October, we can't bring a significant number of home. We have to be reasonable. I have never been one to say, bring them all home tomorrow. I have never subscribed to one of those mandatory dates because I understand that despite my opposition to the war from the beginning, that we have to be responsible about how we bring our troops home. This Congress has raided $925 billion from Social Security, and you go back to the Clinton administration.
Would you raise the retirement age?
I don't believe that is the solution.
Cost of living increase?
I don't believe that's the solution. Just think back to the Clinton administration, 1995, they balanced the budget. By the year 2000, the plan was to put $200 billion, sock it away for Social Security. We had 15 years on what we have now.
That is just one of many differences on Social Security, where she wants to give Social Security to illegal immigrants, which would put billions of dollars of risk on a program that is already strained.
You can that you're open to both censure and impeachment.
I don't think you should ever rule anything out, but I'm telling you my focus is not impeachment, it's not censure. My focus is to go to Congress and get something done. The questions were, would you support these? And I said, no, I did not.
Not now. Are the National Republicans pulling out of your race?
They are not. We're getting a lot of good cooperation from the National Republican Senatorial Committee. We just had 6 senators in last week. I won my first race one-on-one, and I'm happy to win any race that way. You know, you can't really play TiVo and rewind in the real world. You know, you can't really play TiVo and rewind in the real world.